This is one I was very excited about, Stellar Horizons 2. I played the original Stellar Horizons, also by Andrew Rader, and I really liked it. I really had a good time with it. It was sort of like the subject matter of a high frontier, or damn it, I can't remember again, GMT's sort of realistic expansion of humanity game. But felt like, in a lot of ways, sort of a regular good old war game, you know, or at least the kind of game that, you know, came out at the same time as war games did. And what I tend to call WIMP games, because they, you know, it contains war game-ish stuff in it, but it also contained economics, you know, and expansion and all kind of 4X type stuff going on in it that feels more, you know, appropriate to something like an Ameritrash game or something. But it felt like a lot of fun. My hope with this, which turns out to be unfounded, I don't research games all that much, you know. I look at something and say, oh, that's a topic that interests me or whatever. But for whatever reason, my hope was that this was an expansion of the original Stellar Horizons and that they'd be able to link together. They're not. This is essentially, as far as I can tell, similar mechanisms to the original Stellar Horizons. There's a tech chart, a whole bunch of, you know, little exploration counters that you can discover essentially technological advances through. The same kind of symbology on the ships in terms of, you know, what's a firepower, what's this, what's that. Some of the same concepts are in play with it. Like if something of yours gets damaged exploring or in a fight, you get some learning from that. All kind of stuff like that. It's all worked into it, but instead of being within the solar system, this is, you know, near distance stars. I believe the radius is something like 50 light years of the entire map. This is a tiny slice of the map for the very first, for the smallest scenario. And, you know, such is. Let's talk a little bit about what we got. Like I said, there's a tech chart here. There are a couple of decks of cards that are used in the more advanced scenarios, improvements for fleets there. There's money. I might end up using poker chips for that. A couple of these player aid charts. Not too detailed, but they give, you know, key information you need. The combat table is in here, which is very useful. There's something that tells you, hey, we had a misprint in the original counter mix, and they gave some replacement counters for that. There are some replacement counters for the original game, which is kind of cool. I don't know if you can get them in a different way. It would be neat if you could. A whole bunch of these, which are going to be your planetary systems, which is just like you explore planets in Stellar Horizons, you end up exploring planetary systems here, building bases and whatnot. There are, I think, 7 different powers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different powers that you can play, each of which have their own special capabilities and are tracked on these. And they have corresponding force pools with differences between them in terms of the types of ships that they can have. These are your colonization pieces or settlements or whatever. This is for time recording. Keep track of the century and the decade on there. Each turn is 10 years. Other stuff you have, it's kind of new. You have trade goods. You have anomalies that are going to be kind of challenges that you have to deal with. If you undertake violent action against somebody, especially if it's unprovoked, you end up taking these escalation chits, which are generally bad, and you give influence chits to the person you attacked, thereby giving them a kind of a bonus for your attack. So there's a mechanism in play to prevent you from making it just an all-out military game, and instead, it ends up being, I think, more of a luck type thing as to, hey, did you find what you find? I think everybody starts at Earth in most of the scenarios, not all of them. There's an alien scenario at least. These are special things you can gain, events that can happen. What are these? Yes, you can get directives, which will give you victory points if you fulfill them. This all kind of shit like that. And some of this is going to look very familiar. Like these look exactly like the similar counters that exist in Stellar Horizons. And these are basically research counters. They're going to be in pools. This game requires a lot of hidden cups. And some of them are quite large. So for example, all the planets, I've put them in this bag. I have another bag somewhere else that I think I'm going to want maybe for the influence pieces. A couple of cups here to handle these, which are going to be randomized. These are the counters which came on that replacement sheet. They're just basically to indicate how much you've explored the system. And once it's fully explored, each time you explore, the value goes down. So it starts off with 5 explorations, then it'll go to 4, I guess, then 3, then 2, then 1, and then fully explored. Let me see. Talked about trade goods, I think. Yeah, you'll have demand chits showing up in certain places. It's not really a trading game, but it's a game in which delivering important resources is part of the value. I don't know what the fuck these are. They say all factions, and then they have all kind of crap on them. I don't even know what they are. Okay. So that's, and I got a pipe and and some tea. Okay. The game comes with 3 rule books. I think it was only intended to have 2. I have the feeling this is a later edition. And the rule books are kind of an important thing. I peeked at the old Stellar Horizons rulebook. It's normal, glossy, maybe a little too many pictures, etc. It worked perfectly fine. This one feels like it came out as a rush job. The main rulebook is almost like a set of notes for the rules. First of all, these blue sections are advanced rules that only apply to some of the scenarios and to the campaign game. Now, normally when I play something like this, I just jump in and say, screw it, I'll play the whole campaign. That'll be fun, right? That's the way I want to do it. And I have a feeling the whole campaign is going to take up a lot of table space. I mean, need to pull more table in. I know Stellar Horizon, the original, had quite a bit. But they tell you, hey, if you're a new player, look at the player's guide first. After that, skip campaign-specific rules for now and try a scenario before tackling the campaign. Well, normally I don't do that. Normally I'm like, oh yeah, let's just play the whole thing. Each of the scenarios kind of focuses on a different element in the game. So it's a way to learn new pieces with it. The problem is, I read this rule book, so I did indeed look at the player guide, and what is it? Well, the part that's kind of about the rules is sort of the beginning section of most rule books, which is just, hey, here's what the components are. I wonder. Yeah, I don't see an explanation of those pieces. I don't know what they are being presented in here either. But anyway, it's basically an explanation and a pictorial, like, you know, catalog of the components and what they're kind of used for and everything. Usually the first couple pages of a normal rulebook. I was actually shocked because the rulebook was awfully thin to begin with and hits scenarios after 8 pages. And I'm like, wow, only 8 pages of rules. That's a lot simpler than the original Stellar Horizons. What's going on with that? Well, it's not a simpler game. What they kind of did was not write out the full rule book as far as I could tell. And that showed in the sense that I read the rules and didn't really feel like I was getting much of the game out of them. Having looked at this, right, I mean, this just shows you what's going on. Then it gives you an example of play. After 8 pages, it gives you a few pages of examples of play. The way the examples of play, they do say, hey, if you want, you know, many players like to jump in, so we're including examples here. These may be tough to follow without the rules. Yeah, they are, but we hope they give you a sense of gameplay up front. However, if you prefer to read the rules first. Well, I read the rules first. I came back to these, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I still don't get it. The only way to make sense out of these is to kind of play them out, because you've got to look up shit on the charts and everything to get some of the information of it. And some of it kind of kicks in, but for the most part, it's not really helpful to read this before you know the rules, and certainly not without and also without the pieces being there. So the whole, hey, you really need to read the player's guide first. It's right. It's the first, the first 8 pages of the player's guide are the first 8 pages of the rules in most games, including the original Stellar Horizons. I don't know why they chose to do it this way. What about the third rulebook? Well, there are scenarios here. This is the scenario guide, which you would think maybe this is like strategy or something. Yeah. What it is that the setup instructions for the scenarios are not sufficient to have any fucking clue what you're supposed to do to set up the game. And I think that became relatively clear. I know the game was delayed by at least a month, maybe a month and a half in delivery. I don't know if this is part of that or what went on, but it feels like someone said, this game doesn't make sense. You have to give more about how to set up the scenario. And so like here, you know, actually setting up the map is in here. An explanation of the scenario, sure, that's there too. And some of it is like just going over sort of the example of play type stuff, although maybe at a more abstract level. So they say things like, at the start of 2170, we reduce all transfer markers by 1 again. This means blah, blah, blah. But it's kind of telling you, you know, it's kind of going into an example of play. Why isn't the example of play sufficient? Well, because the example of play, unfortunately, isn't of the basic scenarios. You know, you think kind of new people diving in who need to look at the examples of play are going to want to be able to dive into the early scenarios. Well, that's not what they do. They jump in the middle of play somewhere in the campaign game and like have all the rules being referenced in here, including ones that I kind of skipped over. So it's a very, very confusing decision on how they set things up. And, you know, they've got the information here. These same pictures that are embedded into here are over in here. And again, still no explanation for what the fuck these things are. And I don't remember any explanation in the rules. So, but as I said, the rules were very difficult to cope with. They're not written in a way, they feel kind of like somebody put together the notes that they were going to put as a structure for the rules and then never got around to actually writing out a comprehensive set of rules the way that the original game did, the way that almost all games have. This is challenging games like Avalon Hill's Wizards in terms of being really, really bad rules, like just not complete or whatever. So I don't know. We're going to work through the rules as we usually do and see what we can get to. I'm going to play at least some of the smaller scenarios before I dive into the campaign game. And of course, I do everything on video that I can, just because that's my way of talking to y'all. What are you? Labyrinth. Okay. Yeah, I got the expansion for Labyrinth. And I don't know when I'll get to it. But, all right. So I'm going to swap batteries, relight my pipe. I had it lit when I started. I just can never keep it lit while I'm talking. And we'll dive into the rules and take a little look at it. But I tell you, I don't think I've ever been as flummoxed by sitting down and just reading the rules. And in fact, Wizards, I kind of had a better idea of how to play. This is really problematic, and we'll see why as we go through it. When you compound that to the fact that it's not the game that I kind of hoped it to be, I'm really kind of disappointed. This feels like Compass has, so with Compass, they had a really bad reputation for a while in terms of, hey, they put out some interesting games on neat subjects, but the rules are a fucking mess. Before the period where Stellar Horizons came out and I got that, I was beginning to think that they had turned a corner. Games like Balance of Power, I'd gotten a series of these that I thought were pretty okay games. The rules felt relatively solid. The only thing they got wrong in a lot of the games, and not in Stellar Horizons, and it doesn't appear to be in this one either, was graphic issues. They made some really dumb seeming graphic choices in terms of colors and whatnot. Either that were just kind of silly looking, unreadable, like in God Kings. Wherever I have that, it's got to be over here somewhere. But it was starting to feel like, hey, they're coming up with decent sets of rules, and it looks like they're actually playtesting these things and taking some advice from their playtesters and correcting stuff. This one feels like it was rushed out the door before everything could be done. So I'm not sure how much there's going to be in terms of things that are contradictory or anything. I don't remember seeing anything like that. But on the other hand, the rules were so amorphous in my view that I'm not sure I would possibly notice such. It's rather late in the dark of morning here on Wednesday for those who are watching everything as it comes out and kind of know where I am and when I am. In terms of personal stuff, I don't know. We won't get into that right now. Maybe after we do some playthrough. All right. So again, everything that's in this blue background doesn't apply to the normal, the base game rules, but some of it slips into some of the scenarios that are not the campaign game. I don't know if this is the best way to put things. It's not terrible because it gives you the rules all together. Okay. And play should generally be simultaneous, but apply initiative to resolve orders. Okay. There doesn't appear to be an initiative phase, though. So, and there's no rules reference to send you to tell you when initiative is. There is an initiative order here listed in combat, but what the initiative is not defined there. Maybe it's defined in the scenarios, but the scenarios are kind of weird. Like this one, you have a number of players, but yeah, there's no... Now, I remember there being initiative rules. Oh, here we have roll initiative and discard escalation in the economic phase. Now, the economic phase is only in the campaign roles, and the scenarios include multiple players. So I don't know how initiative is gonna function within that. But whatever. Okay, reduce transfer markers. This is something that is, again, from, I didn't explain these counters, but from the original game. When you're heading someplace, you put a marker to indicate how long it's going to take to get there. And you just kind of float around with the marker on you, and it gets reduced each turn to indicate the transit time. There's no interceptions in transit or anything like that. So until you reach a location, you're not going to, fumble into combat or anything. And that's what happens here. Build and repair ships. Okay. You're going to spend money and maybe other resources. Combat. Hey, look, combat's only this. That's the entire rules for combat. Right? I don't know. Not really. Because, well, maybe it is. Oh, resolve combat. Okay. There we go. Yeah, see, the section labeled, I hate when this happens. The section labeled 1.3 combat is sort of just a high-level description of it, I guess, of the different kinds of combat. But then the actual things that have to do, that are like subsections of that, are given their own numbers. Very, very troubling. Very troubling. But, okay. Movement, which I kind of understand, but there's some weird shit in terms of the calculations involved. Cargo transfer and trade, okay. Exploration, that's going to be dealing with these. Develop tech and buy cards. You play on the tech board, you play with the cards, whatever. And then shuffle cards into decks. Okay. All right. So, like I said, economic phase, it's not being covered here. So this isn't being done in sequence order. Combat is being covered here. Economic phase is... Never explained directly. But things like mining and research, maybe they cover some of it. I don't know. Trade goods and demand, that may be part of it. Like, it's all just sort of jumbled together in weird ways. Like, I would expect the economic phase... Oh, no, the economic phase is in the campaign rules, which is going to be over here. for that specific thing. So only in the campaign game do you even use that. Okay. Some of these others, they say campaign rules, and they say if you're playing a scenario, you can skip these for now. Exception, some campaign rules are used in more advanced scenarios. Those are going to be embedded here. We'll try to hit those. Then when we actually get to the campaign game, we'll hit the campaign specific stuff. Ooh, like that. Okay. Reduce transfer markers. Like I said, ships that are in transit, they're going to get their little number markers reduced by 1, and once it gets down to 0, they end up at the location and can interact with it. Build and repair ships. In reverse initiative order, how do we get initiative order? We don't know. That's in the campaign rules, I guess. Maybe you just roll dice. Okay, now in reverse initiative order, players build and repair ships. The cost to build a ship is indicated on the back of its counter. Okay. Let's go over to here where they tell us where on the back of the counter, because there are a number of values on each ship, so just looking at a ship won't tell us. So here's a ship. Okay. It is the only number on the back, and that's just going to be billions of dollars that you have to spend for a ship. The glare of glossy paper. I hate glossy paper. You can always build and repair ships in Sol, but the maximum you can spend on building and repairing at a base per turn is equal to the number of settlements, i.e. the base has to have as many settlements as the build cost. These are your settlements. I called them colonists or whatever, but yeah, it's the number of people you can have. The build cost to build a ship, yeah, okay. You can repair 1 damage with 1 settlement, yeah. To repair a CV, okay, what's a CV? It sounds like aircraft carrier, right? No, it's a crewed vessel. At a base or Earth, you pay 1 billion per damage point removed. Additionally, once per turn, you can pay 3 billion to repair a point of damage, or half a CV's cost to repair all of its damage for a single CV located anywhere. This is a little weird thing about the game. You have cash money. It is magic, okay? You can spend your cash money anywhere you like. It's just like available to you as if it were electronically transferred. Now, if you're talking about a distance of, 7.4 light years, it's going to take 7 years for that electronic signal that you've got that money to be transferred. So I don't know how the economy of this is supposed to work. It worked fine in Stellar Horizons because everything's in the solar system. And the span of time of the game was such that the communications could be done like they're 5-year turns or 10-year turns, the communications could be done within the amount of time of a turn with no problem. Communication time was much, much smaller than the time in the game turn. Here, turns are 10 years each. Some of the closest stuff is a number of light years away that mean it would take turns, it would take like a full turn basically to get the information transmitted. Even if money was just completely an electronic signal being sent via light and it wasn't materials that, are present. So materials are present everywhere and, I don't know. You have a credit stick that you could, but you can't overexpend your money, right? Like if I'm on multiple planets, I can't spend all my money on all those planets. So it's like something's handling the banking and everything here. At the end of my Riri Virgin Queen 3 and Wrap, somewhere towards the end of that, I actually went into a discussion about this whole thing and how it would be interesting to have a game that handled the kind of society that would be necessary to maintain control over an organization that spans several light years of territory, and whether it's even feasible. And I think it's not, but it would be kind of intriguing to look at a game that handled that kind of communication systems, etc. Right. This one doesn't bother with it. Everything's instantaneous. You know where all your shit is, whatever. Okay. You can voluntarily destroy your own ships at any time. If you destroy an undamaged ship in Sol, you get half of its cost back in cash. For campaigns, you can't exceed your maximum number of ships by century. That's going to be on the faction sheet for each power. All right, let's talk about combat, since it's here. Combat is only used in campaigns in the last two scenarios, so you should consider skipping it. Yeah, well. In initiative order, you can initiate one combat in each system where you have ships or bases. You can attack another player's ships with your ships. You choose one or more armed crewed vessels. All defending CVs are included. The defender can also choose to include a base if they have one. Planetary assault. You can attack another player's base with your ships. Choose one or more armed CVs to include. The defending base is included, and they can choose to include any CVs that they have in system. Ground combat. You can attack another player's base with your own base. Both bases are included. The defender can choose to include any CVs in the system that they wish. There are multiple planets per system. You know, like Alpha Centauri has possibility of 3 different planets here. Okay. But that multiple planets per system, I think bases are just in the whole system. So ground combat may be extraplanetary. It's just, you know, in-system combat, base versus base. Notably, it doesn't look like you can attack with a combination of your bases and CVs, which feels weird. Like, it feels to me like you should be able to assemble both, but I don't know. But the defender can always throw CVs in on defense in these three. Raid, you attack outlying settlements of a base. Choose one armed, undamaged CV to raid a base in a system with no armed CVs owned by that faction. Roll a die, and this is the kind of shit that's in these rolls. +1 for Praetorians or Military Academy card. A couple of special, one is a faction, the other is apparently, you know, an improvement that you can get from cards. And percentiles, not explained in here, I think. I don't think the dice operation. Oh, no, here we go. Yeah. Okay. So for the dice, you have one die that is used as your base die roll, and then you roll a set of percentile dice for some additional factors there. Roll a die +1 for Praetorians and Military Academy card, and percentiles, and consult the raid table at the back of this rule book. No, but it's over here. It's also on the player aids, which is very helpful, because these rule books will fall apart. The glossy paper doesn't hold together well. Okay, so what? Yeah, I don't know. All right. Combat with REs. You can't attack REs at Sol or a system where there are bases or CVs of the same faction. In other systems, you can use a CV with a combat value to destroy one RE of your choice per combat phase in each system. Now, this is a little weird. It's not clear whether they say you can use a CV means, like, if I have 3 CVs there, I can only pick one of them, I think, and only destroy one RE. I think. The owner can draw one engineering tech marker for the loss. Okay, this hasn't been explained, but I remember it from the old Stellar Horizons. Essentially, when you lose a ship, if it was a crewed ship, you would get like a biology marker, and if it was a robotic ship, a robotic exploration unit, you would get an engineering marker. And that's just these things. They're just going to be points that you have that you can use on the tech tree for the most part. That's what I think it's talking about. And they say per usual combat rules. Well, we're in the combat rules here. Let's see if it's here or somewhere further. I bet it'll be in the damage rules. I don't know. But I'm like, damn, shouldn't you give me the basis here? The aggressor draws one escalation marker and the defender draws one IP on post-combat. Okay, so one of the things that happens when you do combat, like I said, you pick up escalation markers, which may or may not be bad. They're more likely to be bad than good. And the person who is being violated gets intellectual property. No, influence points. That's what IP stands for. Okay, resolve combat. Okay. For combat other than raids or against REs, so these two get canceled out, these three are included. Add up the combat values of the attacker and defendant. Combat values are printed on ships, and the damage markers have penalties written on them. So one level of damage gives, this is the combat level, -1 to the combat level. I think this is the cargo capacity. We would have to flip in this rule book to see. And you know, I kind of understand the decision to put this as a separate rule book. It actually is kind of cool. So now I can look, no, that's the exploration value. Where's the cargo capacity? Cargo capacity is that. Okay. Same symbology as is used in the original Stellar Horizons. So, you know, if you play a lot of that, picking up this is going to be easier, I think. Unfortunately, it's been a few years since I played. Okay. -1 per damage, minimum 1 per ship with combat value. I think that means that any ship that had a combat value has a minimum of a 1 point value added. A basis combat value is equal to the number of settlements, maximum 30 combat value. Now each side rolls a die and cross-references their roll with the combat value on the combat table at the back of this book. Let's grab the player aid for this. So the total combat value compared to a die roll is going to give you a number of hits. Add a die roll modifier equal to 1/10 the sum of enemy CV sizes. Size on a CV, I think, yeah, is this number here. So it would say CV3, its size is 3. With fast ships counting as one size less. Okay. So you'd add 0.3 for a fast CV4. Now, there's a rounding rule on this, which is when you add up all your modifiers and whatever, 0.5 or higher rounds up, otherwise truncate. And what that's going to, you know, this is the weirdest thing, adding like, you know, 0.3 to a die roll, to a 10-sided die. It feels really, really funky to me. I think there was, I don't remember anything this crazy, but like, there may have been something like this in the original Stellar Horizons, but it was explained well. Here it's like, not. So you have to kind of try to figure out what you're doing there. Plus, 1/10 the number of enemy settlements. So if they have like 3 settlements, you'd add 0.3. The result is the number of hits. That's going to be over here. Now, is that right? Add a die roll modifier. Yeah, I think this is again a die roll modifier, not a modifier to the damage. The result is the number of hits inflicted on the other side. Starting with the owning player, each side alternates assigning hits 1 point at a time on the attacker's CVs and bases. Then you follow the same process for the defender's CVs and bases. So this is really weird. So let's say 4 hits occur. Well, the attacker would assign the first hit to one of his targets. Then the defender assigns the second hit. Then the attacker assigns the third hit, and so on. And then you go and you assign hits to the defender's ships. Very, very weird. I think it's going to be kind of cumbersome, but that's what this is trying to say. It's not the clearest way to say it, but yeah. All right, damage to CVs. CVs can be damaged during combat and exploration. Each point of damage reduces the exploration and combat values, as indicated on here. But by 1, minimum equal 1 for ship that have these values. I think what that means is you can't drop any of their values to zeros. CVs can't be included on the attacker's side in combat or perform exploration actions if they have damage equal to or exceeding half their size. E.g. 1 damage for a CV2 or 1.5 equal 2 damage for a CV3. Now, okay, this is a gripe to me. 3 halves equals 1.5. That's fine. 1.5 does not equal 2. I really wish they used a slightly different notation there, like an arrow or something like that, but that's just personal gripe. It's understandable. CVs are destroyed by damage equal to their size, 2 for a CV2. Also destroy any cargo if you lose a CV from damage, combat or exploration. Oh, here it is. I didn't remember reading this. Draw a biology tech marker plus engineering tech markers equal to a quarter of the ship's size. And again, I guess it's rounded. So if you're looking at a size 1 ship, you don't get any engineering tech. That's meant to represent what you learn from losing the ship. Okay. Escalation and influence. After combat, attackers, this is campaign rules. Attackers draw escalation markers and defenders draw an equal number of IPs, supports for victims of aggression. Exception, attackers can choose not to draw if the defender's side included any ship that attacked them either this turn or last turn. The defender would then also not draw IPs. I don't know how you mark this. Maybe it's what these are for. I have no idea. I guess you just try to remember. Escalation markers are drawn as follows: +1 for combat for initiating combat, +1 for each CV you destroy, +0.5 for each settlement destroyed, which is going to be each point, I guess. +2 for fully eliminating a base. Bases haven't been defined yet. I think they are your pile of settlements in a system. But again, I'm guessing at this shit because it's not defined. Well, here we go. You build bases by dropping off. Any number of settlements in the system constitutes a base. Yeah, okay. There we go. Distributed across, considered to be distributed across all worlds. Yeah. Yeah. So it is actually covered in there. When you give me this much picture, I don't read much. I look at the pictures and I look at the little things, and that's what I worry about. Personal issues. What do we got here? +2 for eliminating base. +2 if you made the attack in Sol system. That may be modified in certain games. If the pool is empty, lose 1 IP for each escalation you can't draw. Ignore the +1 from military. Okay. If you don't, I really hate when like certain special cases are in there. It may need to be, though. If you don't have enough IPs, lose what you have, and you can't attack until after the next initiative roll. Well, there are no initiative rolls unless you're in the full campaign game, from what I know. Either way, the defender draws IPs equal to what the attacker should have drawn. And the reason for that is there aren't a hell of a lot of these. All right. I think we're going to break for a little bit before we deal with cargo, since I have already switched batteries and need to again. It's wintry again. Not real cold, but rainy. Wednesday here. I found my other bag, a Jeff bag. I may transfer the planets to that. This is fine for the planets, but they're the biggest quantity that I have, and I don't know what else. Like the events go in one. That's these. They're kind of a pain in the ass, but I think these may go in. I'm not sure. What are these things? See, the directives are going to go in something as well. There's a fair amount of stuff that has to be moved around into these bags, and I just don't have many big bags. I do have some smaller than this, but this is called a Jeff bag because back when I was in Buffalo, I mean, I must have gotten that like more than 25 years ago, given where I got it. But he would wander around Allentown, and he sold these. Actually, hung out with his roommate and gamed with him a little bit. Just family type games, but it was just really like, you know, like people panhandling or selling roses or whatever, but with something that was actually incredibly useful. And almost everybody in that who hung out in that neighborhood had something of his. This is the only really big one I've ever seen, and I used to use it for my Go board. I've told people about this before, but it's I don't know, it's a neat memory. All right, back to these rules, and I'm feeling pretty wiped out. I got to bed around 7 or so, and it's probably around 1 now. Well, I got to bed, it was after 7, and it's about 1 now. For whatever that means. I did have some nap in there. All right, cargo, transfer, and trade. These aren't so bad once you kind of assimilate everything about the game. Going back and rereading them isn't so bad, but just reading them the first time, they really felt painful to me. You can transfer cargo and sell trade goods in any order. Once you have the tech interstellar settlement, which is the first level in the settlement tracks. And I think these, we'll have to see. See, this is the thing, like the tech tree. Doesn't really have a section. Yeah, it does have a developed tech rule. But you know, here it doesn't look like it says anything about a place where 2 things go into. I think you can just follow paths, but they don't remember. Some of these have prerequisites that are like, if 2 paths are going into something, you have to get them both. But I'm pretty sure you don't have to get all 3 of these to get to that. And I don't think the tech Yeah, see, the tech board isn't even explained in here. You know, when you're going to explain components, you kind of expect all the major components to be explained. There is a rule for it, but likewise, I would argue the map. The map is here. We have this little thing that has pieces of information, you know, the little pointers and whatnot on it. But it doesn't really give you a lot of, it doesn't give you as much information as you'd expect at the beginning of the rule book. Okay. Once you have interstellar settlement, you can buy settlements on Earth for the cost indicated on your faction sheet, 5 billion on scenarios. Different factions may have different costs. And load them into cargo bays of ships in the Sol system. 1 cargo point per settlement. Now, if we recall over here, wherever ships are described, cargo capacity, I'm assuming cargo points relate to cargo capacity, and we'll assume that's at a 1-to-1 basis, unless told otherwise. You can also load settlements from your existing bases. So you can just scoop up people who are already deployed and working, but only a maximum of 1 per ship from a base each turn. Not quite sure why lots of ships makes that easier, but okay. You can transfer settlements between ships' cargo bays in the same system or destroy your settlements at any time. I think you have to have a cargo bay to pick people up. You can't, well, see, technically, one cargo point per settlement, no. Wait. And load them onto cargo bays of ships in the Sol. 1 cargo point per settlement. Oh, it does say it here. You can't store settlements on Earth. Yeah. You can also load settlements from your existing bases, but only a maximum of 1 per ship from a base each turn. See, what I'm wondering is if a ship without cargo can pick people up and put them on a ship with cargo. And in particular, can you use robots for this? I don't know. I would say no, but to build or expand bases, simply drop off settlements from your ship's cargo bays in a system, forming a new base or adding to an existing one. Which systems you can settle is limited by the habitability and your biology tech. Each system has a habitability, not each planet. This is really kind of weird. And where's habitability? You can settle systems with 60% habitability or more. Over here, you can buy settlements on Earth and settle systems with an 80% habitability or more. It says initial none, which I guess means there's nothing that good. That terraforming would be necessary for that. Okay. And then we go, for example, in order to drop off settlements at Barnard Star, you need advanced interstellar settlement. You can only build bases in systems with at least 1 revealed world. A no world marker doesn't count, and you don't have any revealed worlds to begin with. Have we gone to exploration? No. Feels like it would happen earlier, but it doesn't. Feels like it belongs earlier in the rules, but they're following the sequence of play is the issue. For campaigns, you can't exceed your max bases by century, but you can destroy a base you own at any time. Now, the important thing is, max bases, that's a number of systems that you have settlements on. Thinking of, just trying to put the terminology together. When you do this, when you destroy a base that you own, when you do this, earn victory points for its settlements based on their distance from Earth. Record these to count at the end of the game. I think this is a mechanism to allow you to get points for settling a location and then scooping it up. Trade goods in demand. Again, this is part of the main game. This is rules that probably won't be in all the scenarios. Well, that will not be on all the scenarios. Probably won't be in the first one. To load trade goods, simply move them from Earth or a base onto a ship in the same system. How do they get there? You can also unload trade goods at bases or Earth, transfer them to other ships in the same system, or destroy them at any time except during combat. Destroyed goods earn $1 billion. Everything you do, like, you get some scrap out of it. But the scrap is just cash that you can use anywhere on the board. It's not like... Each faction can store... So it's like if you're worried that you're going into a dangerous situation, you can convert goods in your hold somehow into that magical money that works anywhere. Just weird. Each faction can store 10 goods on Earth. Bases can store twice their assignment limit. Based on settlements, see base production on faction sheet. Okay. Here we're going to have to actually finally look at one of these. Twice their assignment limit. Base production, I don't see an assignment limit. I do have a star here, number of goods to assign. I guess that's the assignment limit. So instead of calling it that, they call it trade goods. Okay. And I think that's what you're able to sort of produce or something. I don't know. Again, that'll be in the other roles, I guess. Probably happen in the economic phase. And that's why we don't know where they come from. Why are they being discussed here? I'm guessing there's some other way to get trade goods in scenarios. Each system that is A, completely surveyed, no exploration marker, or this is the exploration marker, or B, has a base, gets a demand marker. Remove if all bases are lost unless fully surveyed. Demand markers in fully surveyed systems represent non-player outposts. Fully surveyed without any base is what they mean. The player who completes the final survey or builds the first base draws 2 demand markers from the pool and chooses one to add. Soul also has a permanent marker indicating that you can sell ore, rare materials, and fine art there. Don't know if this is going to be in the game here, but there is this counter which would be kicking around on Soul in any game that has demand. And then it spells out the things. The pictures I don't find terribly useful, but whatevers. Goods can only be sold in systems with matching demand markers and no bases anomalies. So wait a minute. If I completely surveyed the planet, but does not have a base, it has a demand marker, is that what they mean by a no bases anomalies? Or do they mean something that refers to the remove if all bases are lost unless fully surveyed? It's kind of weird to put a demand marker somewhere, but have no ability to sell. Like there are consumers who supposedly represent non-player outposts, but they won't actually buy the stuff they want until a base shows up. I don't know. Like, that could be useful information. Like if you you could carry a base and cargo to the thing because you know that the base wants the cargo. I don't know. I really don't know what this sentence is meant to express. When you sell a type of good, you can sell any number from ships and bases in the system or Earth for Sol. After selling, return the demand marker to the pool and replace it. Draw two, pick one. There is no transaction limit. You could sell again immediately after drawing a new marker if you have matching goods in the system. You get cash indicated on the back of the goods for each you sell, modified by the world types on the system, and there's a bunch of codes on those spelled out here. So here's the base sales price. It says $8 here. I think that actually means dollars B, but it looks like 8, and it says 4 here, so I don't know. Whereas here it says plus 1 billion to sale price for each of these types of worlds in the system. And I guess that's the plus 1 that's expressed here, and then the letters will be the world types. And then here, minus 1 for each of these types of worlds in the system. And then you add the distance from Sol, which is in dollars B. Oh, I see why. Because this is 1 billion, because this is 1 up here. This is just dollars in billions for that number there, the same as distance to Sol is dollars in B. Okay. What is the distance from Sol? Well, I think it's this number in brackets here, not the actual light years number. We could look over here and see if that tells us anything. Distance from Earth, 4.4 light years, brackets 1. Again, not spelled out. But the only assumption is that the gameplay value is the one in the brackets, and the thing that's actually a real distance is unimportant to the game. I think. Okay. Where are we here? Right. For goods sold off Earth, you also add the distance from Sol. Oh, that's because I saw it here. Yeah, earn cash indicated on the back. For goods sold off Earth, add the distance from Sol and earn 1 IP for each good sold. IP being the influence points that you also get for being a bad person or being a good person. So you get money and you get influence for each good. Earth and Earth-like moons, which are E-class. Now this is covered, the different planet types. Over here, Earth-like moon is over there. Just have all kinds of different letters. And those are the letters that are on the trade good counters. Count as M class for trade, just so they don't have to put E next to M everywhere. Note that this means goods sold on Earth will always get plus 1 billion based on Earth's demand marker. Yeah? What? I don't know. I mean, there are so many places where I ran into sentences like this that I'm like, Except it has no basis, so to me so this may be the answer to the no basis anomaly. Since it says it has no bases, ever. You're never allowed to put bases there. I get the feeling that the no basis anomalies means something about like the bases being removed at the moment you're trying to sell or something. Now, when do you pick up bases? You pick up bases back here in cargo transfer and trade. These are both in the same thing, same period, and what it says is you can do it in any order. So I think what they're trying to say is, yeah, you can do it in any order, but you're not allowed to scoop up all the bases. You can't sell something before you scoop up all the bases, even though you're allowed to, like, order it however you like. I think that's what they're trying to get to with that. But they just couldn't spell out the words, and they really had to tell you, instead of having a strict ordering which would prevent that kind of thing, they really wanted to make it possible that you could trade goods before you scoop up the bases. But somehow you can't do it. And there was a timing thing here. You can sell goods and then use the cash to buy settlements. Well, I think you only buy settlements at Earth. But again, I'm not positive about that because that's not in here. So, you know, I'm left with this, yeah, I don't know. Which, you know, could have been handled, if that's the case, it could have been handled with a, well, look, you can buy settlements at Earth and load them up after. Make a special exemption for Sol rather than have to have this kind of cryptic and sparse and no basis anomalies, something that's not referred to anywhere else, stuck in there. Again, it doesn't feel like they polished and finished these rules up. And given that the original game had a reasonably thick and comprehensive feeling rule book, it just feels so funny. Like, I don't think Compass like told them, yeah, you only have 8 pages for the rules. You know, oh, well then let's make a book for this. And then finally, well, we got to print out another book to explain the scenarios because we just weren't able to explain those. And playtesters are coming back with, this game don't make sense. Okay. Where are we? Earth and Earth-like moons count as M class for trade. Okay. This means that goods sold on Earth will always get +1B based on Earth's demand marker. Earth's, what they may be saying there is fine art, ore, and rare materials all have an M in the plus side of this little thing. That's what they may be saying. Horrible way to express it again. And what's really weird about this is Earth and Earth-like moons count as this for trade. Earth doesn't have any letters except counts as M class for trade, which to me doesn't really have to say anything about this rule, which is that Earth and Earth-like moons, E class. I don't know what, oh, Earth, count as M class for trade. Okay, okay, so by adding the word Earth in there, yeah, okay. But Earth is not an E class. Earth is an M class, as stated on the thing. And they managed to confuse me. Is it clear once you sort of struggle your way through it? Yeah. But without the components in front of me, it was almost impossible to understand the babble that was being presented in the rules. And now, the way I read rules is I sit on the crapper in the tub or lie in my bed and read. I don't sit here doing this. Now, you know, my hope was it would all make sense once I came up here. It does now. But the writing quality of these rules is, it's It's not like, oh, it's shit writing. It's too sparse. It's too sparse, and too many shortcuts are being taken to try to cut down the pages or whatever. All right. Let's get to movement, which is, I think, a little more complicated than it was in Stellar Horizons. In this phase, players initiate moves between systems in reverse initiative order. I think you always want to have high initiative. You can only move to systems that are in range, counted as total distance in hexes. Huh? What does that mean? Of either Earth or one of your bases with enough settlements to build the ship, including modifiers. So the larger ships you have, you might not be able to explore as far. This is similar to Stellar Horizons 1. Ship range starts at 1 and increases with tech. Okay. So, that's probably engineering. Would be useful if they told me. Doesn't appear to be. There's range. Well, that's a movement modifier. RE range equal 2. Get that. CV range equals 2. Goes up to there if you want to bring people. What you're going to notice is, well, CV range goes unlimited. So RE range, using robotic explorers, the most you're able to do them is 2 away. Now, what is the distance in this game? That's an interesting question. Here we have this number. This is the distance from Sol. What is the distance between other things? And I'm beginning to think it's a hex by hex counting. Is that explained somewhere? Because we've already talked about ship range, you know, but it may be that there's just this assumption. The campaign uses the full map. No discussion of what distance is. That we have distance from Earth spelled out on the things, but again, we do not have how the map regulates movement, and we're already talking about distance. I think there's an assumption that distance is the number of hexes away. It's not a terrible assumption, but it's like, whoa, okay. You know, given that I have these distances listed here on the actual board pieces, why do I have that? Why is that important? The bracketed number especially, which feels like a gameplay only number. You know? I don't know. Oh, distance from Earth adds to the value of things. So that's and that does make sense, because once you have the full board out, you can take a look at it. It's a relatively large board. You wouldn't want to be counting back to Earth everywhere. So having that number on each sheet to be able to calculate trade goods would be worthwhile. I don't know how much sense it makes if a trade good is produced locally at like a major established trading center, which is something that's going to be kind of weird in the campaign game, is that like the entire economy is going to be based on how far you are from Earth, even though goods might be produced right next door and be very easy to haul in. But that might not be apparent the first load of goods that gets there. I don't know. But then again, they obviously don't need these goods to survive. They're like luxuries or something. I gotta swap batteries. So here we come to, and again, this is gonna be kind of, it's hard to cope with when I don't have the components in front of me, but it gets easier with them. So you can only move to systems that are in range. of Earth or one of your bases with enough settlements to build the ship. That's going to be a little complicated to remember. How big it is for a particular ship. That's going to be a settlement size. I think that was equal to the cost of building the ship. So this would require a size 12 settlement to be within the one space that you start with. Okay. So now it tells me, and it says ship range starts at 1 and increases with tech. Count the number of spaces between the starting system and the destination spacing. Okay. Distance is being kind of defined there without a word, without the word distance being used. And multiply by your movement modifier for your ship chart type. CV or RE, see tech chart. Again, wow, is that sparse. Okay, here we have CV movement modifier is 4, initial is times 5. Is times 4 times 5. Okay. So what's up with this? Count the number of spaces between the starting system and destination and multiply by your movement modifier for ship type. So let's say I had that times 5 multiplier. It would cost me 5 turns to move from Sol to WISE 08550714. I really wish I had picked something that was a little shorter to say. And that is going to be marked with this on top of the ship at the destination location, how many turns it'll take for it to reach that destination. If your ship is fast, what does it mean that it's fast? Okay, this is covered in there. If a ship has one of these little blue flames, it means if you light its ass before it moves, it's able to move a little faster. Actually, those ships move quickly as long as they're not carrying settlements. They can carry trade good. If the ship is fast and not carrying settlements, treat it as having a movement modifier of 1 tech faster. Now, here without the tech chart in my hand, I don't know what they're talking about at all. E.g. with Bussard ramjets, a fast ship not carrying settlements has an effective modifier of 1.5, minimum times 0.5. Okay? And you can see why just reading this was like, what the fuck am I talking about? So let's look for Bussard ramjets. That sounds like a physics thing. CV movement modifier times 2. The next level up is 1.5. So that's what they're talking about. What is this minimum times 0.5? I am guessing that that's to cover this, to say that essentially once you hit near light speeds, ships with a 0.5 modifier don't get any faster by having a blue flame on them. Okay. But again, you have to study the chart and apply some logic to start figuring out what the rules even mean. Was this necessary with Stellar Horizons 1? I don't remember. Take a look at my intro there and see if I struggled with the rules in the same sort of way. This could just be a Raider thing, in which case, I'm really kind of worried about Fatal Alliances, because he did the rework of it, and I was excited about, you know, a dedicated Fatal Alliances, but this is not what I expected. That said, I really enjoyed Stellar Horizons, and I may enjoy this. I just feel like this makes less sense, right? And if I have essentially another Stellar Horizons is all I've got, one with less conflict built in, because, well, first of all, you've got these escalation markers, but also you've got kind of people can head out in all directions. In the original Stellar Horizons, you really kind of wanted to go planet by planet. You could skip some as you got your tech higher, but you really couldn't just... It was a matter where everybody was kind of competing for the same shit. You could tweak your setups so that you were better at jumping ahead than someone else, or better at developing, you know, whatever. Anyway, where are we? But what you can see is that this takes as long to puzzle out as a much larger set of rules would. I think this is harder to puzzle out than something that actually explained everything. And it's impossible to understand when you're sitting on the crapper and you don't have the components spread out for you. Place the ship in the destination system with the transfer marker, that's the number thing, indicating the number of turns it will take to arrive. You cannot interact with transferring ships except voluntary destruction. And then we have an example. Guildmaster, okay, great. Well, it turns out if you zoom in enough, you can see that's kind of the name of this ship. The images are too small for the information presented. Is moving from Earth to Gliese 876. Up here, the consortium, okay, I'm guessing that's who owns this, has tech Bussard ramjets, movement times 2, and because Guildmaster is fast, it's treated as 1 tech faster times 1.5. The number of turns is 1, 2 times 1.5 is 3, so a 3 marker is put on there. But yeah, those initial movement speeds are going to make it really, really slow to get anywhere. And that's kind of cool. Kind of cool. We're going to hit exploration. Oh, this is brilliant. Remember what I said about the, subordination of things? Exploration phase, 1.11. Each ship has 1 action per turn it can use to either explore, resolve an anomaly or event, mine, research, or terraform. Okay. Exploration, 1.12. Okay. I need a break because my throat's killing me. And lots of crap's falling down from my nose. I don't know why. I hope I'm not sick. I don't think I am. I don't feel... I feel funny in some ways, but whatever. The biggest issue right now is I'm sleepy. It's like a little after 2, and I feel like I need to get some more sleep. Okay, exploration. You can only explore systems that have an exploration marker. All of them do at the beginning of this scenario, other than Sol. The value of the system's exploration marker. Your exploration value is the value of the exploration marker, 1 through 5. So it's easier to explore the earlier in the exploration process. The exploration value of your ship, which must be at least 1 to even do it, I guess. Because some of the ship counters don't have a 1, so they're unable to explore, is the only way to assume it, but whatever. The wording is fine, I think. Exploration bonuses from cards are tech. Let me give you a couple examples. However, they say here, advanced interstellar logistics +3 for CVs isn't cumulative for +2 for improved interstellar logistics because they are connected but would be cumulative with the +1 for scout ships. Okay. Gotta look at the thing and try to figure out what the fuck they're trying to say again. Improved interstellar logistics, wish it told me where it was. That sounds more like engineering than anything else. Ah, fuck, I was in the water and... I don't see any there. I don't see any there. Ah, we're going to be here. interstellar logistics, improved interstellar logistics. What's the next one? Isn't cumulative for improved, oh, advanced interstellar logistics isn't cumulative with improved. Okay, so here to here. Because they're connected, this is not how you give a rule, okay? It's like, it's an example. But exploration bonuses from cards are tech, and there's nothing, you know, that actually expresses the rule to this parenthesized. But would be cumulative for the +1 for the card scout ships. Because they are connected, and again, there's nothing in here explaining the tech chart, is there? I don't think so. Not that I would expect it to give me the rule, but I've been pleasantly surprised. Developing techs, maybe it says it here. It doesn't look like there's enough room. I've skimmed over everything, maybe in the example. But, you know, this is, oh, and it does look like double. To buy this, the givers need both improved and advanced. Okay. That sounds presumably interesting. But yeah, I mean, look, obviously it wouldn't make sense that I'd have a +2 bonus here and a +3 bonus here and that they'd be additive. But this is not how to express that, right? And what if there's something else that gives an exploration bonus? Are those cumulative? What does connected mean? These are directly connected. But does that mean interstellar logistics can be combined with this because they're not directly connected? You know, I would again assume not. And again, I don't know if there's anything that gives an exploration bonus that applies to CVs that's on here. It's just, wow, that's a weird place to throw this thing out. What it probably should be defined as is each of these can only, you only acquire the best of that name. So where it says CV exploration bonus, anywhere where you'd see that on this chart, you take the highest one. But that's what I think they mean. But again, rules are not expressed well. The systems exploration bonus, what you'll notice is this, for example, has a +1. It says physics +1. Physics means I use a physics exploration marker. The +1 is I guess the bonus there. Can I find that for sure? Maybe, because they do have this. A base, no. A hex, explore bonus, so yeah. Okay. For each full 10 points of exploration value, you earn a tech marker of the type indicated for the system. That doesn't seem like it's likely to get that much. You get the value of the system. Oh, each ship gets the value of the system, but still, for each full 10 points, I don't know how likely it is that you're going to get 20 points in a system, right? I mean, if we look, the system's exploration marker is 5. Ships, well, this one has like a 9, so yeah, we can get up there. Okay. With the +3, that gets me, you know, up to like 17. And an exploration bonus, I could get close. I think it's going to be pretty hard to get 20 points though. So you get a tech marker, which I believe is drawn randomly from one of these pools. Resolve all players' explorations simultaneously. Place the earned tech markers on top of the exploring ships and flip any ships that malfunction. Then resolve surveys. Surveys? Don't know what that is. Exploration. Follow initiative order for surveys. So survey seems to be a second. Oh, here we go. Okay. Now we have an example. The Starfarers and Praetorians explore Alpha Centauri. 1 marker. I think what they mean there is that this is on the 1. The Starfarers have better initiative. Kepler has an exploration value. Kepler is the name of a ship. Of 1 plus 3 plus 2 is 6. Marker ship system. Imperator has an exploration of 1 plus 12 plus 2 is 15. Kepler rolls a 5. Okay, so this is interesting, right? Ah, I missed something, that's why. For any leftover points, roll a die and earn a tech marker if the roll is less than or equal to. Yeah! And this is very much like the original Stellar Horizons. I have 12 points on a ship. I get 1 success plus a roll on a 1 or a 2, I get a second success. It's a nice little system that the game uses in a lot of things, I think. God, my throat's going again. I don't know, I may be sick. I am feeling tired and worn down, but also my throat is feeling scratchier than it should. Where are we? Kepler rolls a 5, so earns a biology tech marker. Imperator earns a marker on a roll of 6 through 10. What? Wait, what? So the Imperator, Kepler rolls a 5, so earns. Great. Imperator earns a marker on 6 through 10. Or 2 markers on a roll of 1 through 5. Yes. Because I get 1 for the 10 plus failed on the roll. Again, a clunky way of explaining things that I have to parse so much more. Note that even if Kepler completes a survey, but this isn't the rules, this is an example, and it's one reason I stay away from examples. Note that even if Kepler completes a survey that removes the exploration marker, Imperator still gets to explore at full value, but might not get to complete a survey if Kepler does so first. Okay. At the same time as you roll the exploration, you roll the percentile dice. If your percentile dice is equal to your malfunction rate or less, see tech chart. Here we have an RE malfunction of 26. I don't think there's malfunctions for CVs. Okay. Initial is 30 if you're not on the chart. No. Malfunction is up here on CVs in the biology section. It looks higher. Okay. Let's go back here. If it's equal to your malfunction or less, your ship suffers a malfunction. An RE will be destroyed by a malfunction, but the owner draws an engineering tech marker at random. Malfunctions inflict a damage point on CVs unless the roll was 10% or less, in which case 2 damage is inflicted. Okay? Regardless of what your chances were. So it's not like, you know, it's just you have a flat critical on 10% or less. See page 4 for damage to CVs. We already got to that. If you wipe out a CV, you get a biology marker, I think. Damage to CVs. If you lose a CV, you draw 1 biology plus engineering equal to a quarter of the ship's size. Okay. Malfunctions don't prevent surveys or anomalies. We're almost out of battery. I want to get through this. Anomalies and events. Like, my throat is really killing me. I do not really want to keep going. If the sum of the value of tech markers earned by a single exploration, what's a single exploration? Right? Is that one ship? Each ship has one action it can use to either explore. Sounds like it. If the sum of the value of the tech markers earned by a single exploration equals or exceeds the required number, you complete a survey. Number of players in the game versus the tech value to complete the survey. The more players, the harder it is to complete the survey. Why? I'm not sure. When you complete a survey, reduce the system's exploration marker by 1. Now, exploration, according to this, was simultaneous, but follow initiative order for surveys. So, somewhere it said we put the tech markers. Yeah, we put the tech markers on top of the ships so that we know whether or not they're eligible for this. Then in initiative order, we see if they completed the survey. When you complete a survey, reduce the system's exploration marker by 1. In the campaign, when you complete the last survey, you get an IP and keep the system's exploration marker for points at the end of the game. You can also add a demand marker if it doesn't already have one. We already hit that roll. Continuing the previous example, great. The Imperator rolled a 3 on exploration, earning 2 biology tech. Kepler draws a 2 biology, just short of the 3 needed for a 2-player game. Imperator draws a 1 and a 2 for 3 total, thus Imperator completes the last survey and earns 1 IP. If Kepler drew 3 or more, it would complete the survey instead of Imperator. I think, though, multiple people can complete surveys in the same turn. It's just, the initiative order is important because the clock ticks down. And what's interesting here is, if you both go to a new system, if multiple ships go to a new system, they each get the 5 for the exploration marker, which is going to help them in terms of getting chits that they can add up and get tech value. I'm really not sure why the larger number of players requires more tech. I feel like that's a game balance type thing, like a gameplay type thing, to make it more difficult to explore stuff so that the exploration doesn't all sweep away really quickly in those games. Rather than something that can be argued from a realism type of point of view. All right, draw a world tile. If you complete a survey of a system that doesn't have its world slots filled, draw a word tile from the pool and add it to the system on its I1. Let's draw a world tile and see what it says. So this has a 1 on it. That would indicate that to me. This has a 2. Yeah. Draw a world tile, put it on its one side. If it's a no world, it doesn't matter. Some systems can't start with a class M or O planet. If you draw one of these in such a system, return it to the pool and redraw until you get one that can be added. E-class are allowed, that's the Earth-like moons, and this doesn't prevent terraforming later into an O or M. M is Earth-like, I think. O is ocean. M is Earth-like. E is Earth-like moon. It's a little hard to believe that an Earth-like moon is plausible on on a world that's not, you know, surrounding a habitable star. But I think it's like the one trick to get you something kind of nice in one of those systems. So okay. And it's not like it really matters the class of the planet, except for goods and number of survivors you can have on it and whatever. Okay, let's keep looking. If you complete a survey in a system where all slots are full, still draw a world if any of the current worlds have a max population of less than 12, including no world. If you draw a world with up to 12, you can replace a lower population world with the one that you drew. This is a better world. If you replace a no world tile, remove it from the game. Mine, research, or terraform. Yeah, I'm gonna stop here because again I just don't feel well, and I'm gonna just take me a nap. A nap seems to be what I needed, or the rest of my sleep, or whatever. I ended up putting in a fair amount of sleep, a good 4 or 5 hours more, which means I got more than I was booking on. But yeah, I ended up feeling a lot better. Now you can see it's awfully dark out. When I got up, it was still a little light, but it was, well, I had to play, it was past the raid reset, so I had to do that. And then what I ended up with is we were in the middle of this clan spend-off, whatever, and I basically spent the last 6 hours, 5.5, whatever, playing raid, which, yeah, you know, and we're in the midst of an event as well at the same time where I'm going to be pretty busy in raid for the near future. These happen, you know, once a month, right? And they take half the time in a month. So I'm almost always, and now they're upping the amount. Okay. Anyway, for whatever that's worth, here we are on Anomalies and Events. This is only part of the campaign game, but I think it shows up in scenarios because it's not part of the campaign rules section. Of course, the only section that may be part of that is economics, and maybe that shows up in scenarios. I don't know. But I'm doing it as the rules are presented and not really worrying about the options. And then we'll break off for the section that looks like it's only for campaigns. I don't know. When you complete a survey in a campaign, roll percentiles to look for anomalies. On 20% or less, you end up finding, no, it's when you complete a survey, which means you've achieved sufficient points. It's kind of weird because you need more. I don't know. I'm just really weirded out by the why is it more complicated if there's more players in the game. But yeah, I can't think of any justification for that other than a play thing. On a roll of 20% or less, you find an anomaly. You earn 1 IP. Now, when they're talking about 1 IP, I think these are actually money, essentially. And I've got them as kind of a pool. Now, I'm not sure why, because they say IP on the back. This is one of the problems, is the game doesn't tell you, you know, set aside a pool of IPs in a bag or whatever, that I recall. Certainly the way that it's distributed doesn't really help with that. I can't find a section on IPs specifically. Here we go, influence. Influence points are earned in the campaign. And it looks like they're treated as points rather than anything else. So I should be sorting these and having them in some counter trays or something. I haven't decided how things are going to be handled. The fact that they had a shared backside made me think that they're treated as a pool you draw from. I don't think that's the case. If we look at, and again, you know, I'm having to do this constantly. If we look at wherever they show up for combat, where are they disguised? Escalation and influence. You get draw an equal number of IPs. Draw. That sounds like you pull them from a pool. Again, though, I don't know. The game is very bad about actually being explicit about things like this. Is this money? You know, are these just points that are distributed? You know, that are handled the way they kind of feel like they are here, or are they a pool that you draw from that has lots of different numbers? It feels really, really random if you might draw anywhere between 1 and 25 or whatever. So I think they're money, or I think they're a value that, like, you just have you just have a running total of, as opposed to something you draw from a cup. But that obviously wasn't how I thought about them when I was setting this up. Largely because of how the counters are designed. But as I'm reading it, it just, you know, here it's like earn an IP, right? Okay, anyway. If there's already an anomaly or the pool is empty, okay, if the system doesn't already have an anomaly, no, see, oh, wait, no. Draw an anomaly from the pool and add it. If there's already an anomaly or the pool is empty, just earn an IP. Yeah, okay. When you complete a survey roll, find an anomaly and earn an IP. So you get IPs possibly from surveys, but it's just one, and you get IPs from anomaly. I don't know. Okay, there's this. You can't perform an exploration in a system that had a no exploration anomaly at the start of the turn, except for resolving the anomaly or an event. Okay, well, we don't know how to resolve yet, so. Again, lots of like, can you figure this out from something later? Maybe, but right now you can't. No base anomalies mean bases cannot be built in the system, and existing bases can't terraform, produce, sell, or receive goods. Or add settlements by any means until resolved, nor can you trade or terraform. Remember, anomalies get added through the survey process. Planets may be there, which allow you to add bases, and then an anomaly shows up, and you're kind of potentially frozen by something like the no bases, but the bases are still there. As an exploration action, ships can resolve anomalies, okay? Any number of ships can participate, but this uses the action of each. Remember, each ship has one action in exploration: explore, resolve anomaly or event, mine, research, or terraform. Terraforming feels like it's an economic thing. It's a ship action. Add up ship combat or exploration values for combat or science anomalies. Do we have an anomaly example? So that we can kind of see, you know, would be useful here rather than this, which maybe is some kind of explanation. Would be useful to see the anomaly and break it down here, but it may be over here. Don't see it, so like this game, can't find what you're looking for ever. Here we go, an anomaly. So it has a name, it has an effect, it has a type of challenge. This is a combat for a triangle. It has another effect. Earn all indicated rewards when resolved. I guess we'll see that. Combat challenge is difficulty this plus the number of players. It says that here. Is that the case for all kinds of challenges? Probably, but maybe it'll say in the rules. It's like, you know, you need more words here, and you need, you know, more context here or something. I don't know. It's like, just not the way I'm used to dealing with rules, is where I'm having to keep multiple rule books open to see anything. It is necessary that there's 2 rule books, though, and that may be helpful for other games that aren't as problematic as this. I have to swap batteries because I've been babbling long enough on this little teeny piece of text. Remember, there's only 8 pages of rules, but they're expensive rules to work your way through. I haven't even considered what the effect of this rule book is going to be in terms of actual play. Like, when I have to make a rules lookup, I'm going to have multiple books spread out trying to figure out what the rule means, and probably have to reference multiple different things to look at them to figure it out. Problematic. My guess is this is not going to be good for lookups at all. I don't know what it's designed for. It's designed to quickly get notes into people's hands before the rules could be completely worked into a usable form. I think that's what it is. Okay. Add up ship or combat exploration values. Research ships count as +1 for science anomalies. Research ships, I guess, are those REs? I guess. Dunno. See, these are called robotic explorers. Oh, no. Research ship has this. Yeah. +1 science anomaly exploration. Add up ship's combat or exploration value. Exploration value is this. Okay. So if you have the little microscope, you have a +1 to your exploration capability. Not really sure, like, I don't know. Not really sure we need that extra icon. Maybe it would have made more sense to just make because they're making up the world, right? You know, this isn't something that's based on any reality. It's a made-up existence. Why add this complexity of a +1 for the microscope up here? Why not just have an exploration value? Why make that distinguishment? I don't know. Card and tech bonuses don't apply unless indicated. What? I'm guessing that there are cards and techs that add to, say, your exploration value or your combat value. Okay, so they don't apply? Wow, that's kind of weird. That's going to be hard to remember. Your total value must be equal to or greater than the anomaly difficulty. Okay, printed value +1 per player in the game. -1 or -2 if Starfarers or Syndicate participate for science or combat, respectively. Okay. That's presumably going to be on here. It's going to be hard to remember to look up for a penalty. I always say it's a lot easier to give people bonuses that if they don't bother to notice, that's their problem, than it is to give people penalties that everybody else has got to watch them like hawks to make sure that they apply every time. Example, players agree, I don't know, resolution is automatic, earn the reward listed on the front of the anomaly. Example, players agree transhumanists get 2 IP and 1 biomarker. What? Starfarers get 1 biomarker. Okay, what the fuck? That's an example of what? What does it refer to? Apparently to this picture somehow. We have this here, 2 IP, 2 biology markers. Shared reward is 2 influence and 2 biomarkers. I'm assuming that you can work with other players, something that hasn't been at all hinted at, in order to resolve anomalies. What else can you do that for? I don't know. But here it appears that you can make some kind of agreement to work together. And I'm guessing that there's 3 different players on this place. I'm looking. What do I see? I see 2 ships. That's got to be 2 players. One is Centaur and one is Kepler. And I don't know why another player's getting anything. I don't see any bases or anything else. So what do we get here? Transhumanists get 2 IP and 1 bar. Oh, no, there's only 2. Transhumanists get 3 of the rewards. Starfarers get 1. So, yeah. And I'm guessing, yeah, Starfarers here, this says research ship instead of who it is. Should say transhumanists to match this, right? But this one is applying a lot more. So this needs 8. This is applying 5 plus 1 for being a research ship equals 6. Yes, it does. So they're applying 6. This one's applying 3 and reduces difficulty to 9, which I guess is something to do with the faction involved. Don't know. Who cares? I mean, again, it's like, wow. Okay, some anomalies yield trade goods, which may be taken into your cargo bays, added to your bases in the system, or destroyed to earn $1 billion. For splinter, colony, or dissidents, what? I don't know what those are. I guess they're specific anomalies. You can add the settlements to any bases you control, or establish a new base in the system if it wouldn't exceed your base limit. Wait, there's a base limit? Or is there a settlement limit? Oh, base limit, yeah. Base limit is how many bases you're allowed throughout the galaxy. That's what it refers to. So yes. Ignore habitability. Alien derelict or alien remains, again, I assume specific ones. Yeah, not clearly indicated by anything, just words tossed out at you, which could be, a card or something like that. Who knows? But again, I assume. Immediately earn a level of fleet improvement or genetic manipulation. I hope they say something. Wait, discard the drawn card if you already own it. I'm guessing genetic manipulation is something of a card? I don't know. Fleet improvement, I haven't opened these up yet. This says fleet improvement, this says fleet improvement. They're different levels, but there may be, yeah, we've got genetic manipulation here. Yeah, we got genetic manipulation here too. I probably should open these up and see what they look like. You can't tell anything in this game without ripping every component out and looking at it. You can't tell what the fuck the rules are talking about. They're that bad. We have a similarity here. So we have things, these say fleet improvement on them. I'm guessing these say fleet improvement. These say genetic. I'm assuming on the back they say genetic to try to avoid having to open it. I don't know. We're not going to have these in the first playthrough, so I'm going to stick them over there. We're going to make that as an assumption because I'd really rather not open up all the components and look at them. I do have something that gives me a hint. That's the best I can say. It doesn't show me the back of the cards or anything like that, but I think we can assume. Okay, where the fuck are we? Discard the drawn card if you already own it. Earn it and draw a replacement for your hand if you have it in your hand. Okay? I don't know the difference between owning and having something in your hand, but that may be when we get to the tech here. Although tech is this, so I don't know what the fuck these cards are. Right? And how you get them in any other way. Okay, events with challenges work like anomalies. All right? When do you get an event? Well, you get anomalies on this 20%. Don't know where we get events. +1 per player in the game. Research ships +1. Okay. Except they appear during the economic phase, always occupy systems and bases, and return to the pool when resolved or when all bases in the system are destroyed. Okay. That sounds like it's going to be in the section of the rules that we're not in. that we're not going to cover here. These events affect all players in the system or in range. Anyone can resolve them, earning an IP award. Effects are applied either every turn or, if not resolved by the time the draw event economic phase tile is drawn, apply the effect before returning it to the pool and drawing. What the fuck does that mean? Effects are applied either every turn or, if not resolved by the time the draw event... I don't know. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay. We'll figure it out when we get to it, because we don't have how they're even generated in this part of the roles. Mining and research. You can see why, like, you know, sitting down just reading. So I looked at this and I'm like, okay, it's a thing of the components. I'll keep it nearby if I have to look up components. But reading this, I'm having to use so much fucking brain power to try to hide her hair out of this. I honestly don't know of another game that has rules that are bad in this particular way. This is just so fucking weird. As an exploration action, mining ships can mine in a system that has at least one revealed world and no base you control. Pick a world in the system and roll a die. Earn $1 billion automatically or $2 billion if you rolled the world cash production value or less. What's the world cash production value? That is the red number here. I don't know what the green number is. That's the biology production. And gray would be engineering. Okay, so worlds produce tech and they produce cash. So you can mine a world just to get cash, and you get either 1 or 2 billion. Alternatively, research ships can research in a system that has at least one revealed world and no base you control. Pick a world in the system and roll a die. If your roll is less than or equal to the world's research value plus half your ship's exploration value. Okay. Cool, different system from, you know, the one that allows mining when they feel like the same thing. Yeah, whatever. Earn a tech marker of the type the world produces, max 1 marker per ship. You can only mine or research once per system and not do both because they're things that, they're ship actions in the exploration phase. Well, wait, is it more than that? You can only mine or research once per system. Yeah, so you could actually have one ship mine or research and another ship do something else. Yeah, okay. Example, Ascendants can either mine or research instead of exploring. If it chooses to mine, no, it's part of exploring. Like, it's under exploration phase. I don't know. I guess it's different from this. Whatever. I don't know. I'm just so pissed. If it chooses to mine, the D-class world would be the best choice. Okay, so again, we're here on this picture. There's a D-class world. Mining gives us 7. These others are less. Ascendants would earn 2 billion on a roll of 1 through 7 or 1 billion if higher. If Ascendants chooses to research, it would earn a biology marker on a roll of 5 or less. This is a 3. 3 divided by 2 equal 4.5. Yes, it does. Equal 5, well, yields 5, whatever. But that's half the ship's exploration value. We look at that. That's the 3 divided by 2 there. Yeah. An engineering marker on a roll of 4 or less. That would be 2 for D plus 3 halves of 4. Or a physics marker on a roll of 3 or less. We go to the J. Why would we go to the J? What's this? This is the biology. And engineering here. Oh, biology on the M-class world. Yeah, okay. I am. Yeah, all right. So this happens to have all 3 types of research available. Terraforming with mining ships. If you have the tech atmosphere processing, you can use a mining ship to terraform a world as its exploration action. See Terraforming, page 17. That's deep into the campaign rules. Now, I know terraforming happens in some scenarios, so we're going to have to hit the campaign rules, you know, before we hit the campaign, which feels weird. Like, I don't know. I'm almost out of this battery, too. You can see how much effort each fucking page takes to decipher in this. Like, they managed to save some of this glossy shit paper, but damn. At what fucking cost? It's worth we're not far. Develop text, buy cards, which is going to refer to those. Again, probably not in the first scenario. And then we hit the scenarios. We're close to loading things up. Develop text. This should be easy. This should be very much similar to the original Stellar Horizons. Of course, I don't remember the originals all that well, but, you know, hopefully they didn't change the rules too much. What we have is a number here. I'm guessing this is the number of tech that you need to expend to get there. We have an initiative track here. That's an interesting thing. Not explained anywhere in the rules, even though the scenarios are going to need it. In the rules so far, right? Okay. Tech markers are used to buy techs. You can also spend cash, 1 billion per point. In the campaign, also IPs for 2 tech points each. Does that mean if IPs are in the game, you can use them? Or you can only use them in the campaign game? Don't know. Because IPs are a campaign rule, but some of the scenarios apparently use them since they're embedded in here. I'm not sure. For example, you could spend 2 4-point markers and $2 billion on a tech costing 10. You'll never receive change for overspending. Okay. And then they give an example of that. In order to buy tech, you must have owned all prerequisites connected to its left at the start of the turn. So I'm guessing by prerequisites, they mean things leading into it. Which is, so like, if you think about the Civilization computer game tech tree, you can like shoot all the way across. You can't do that here. You need to, for example, to get to this, you need all 3 of these. As opposed to, there are 3 different ways to get there. So there's no shooting really far ahead in tech. You can always buy techs on the left side of the chart that have no prerequisites. As you buy techs, place a faction marker flag on them. That is these, and I was wondering what they were used for. So bases all look the same, and you're going to just rely on color for them. These guys have a little flag on them. You had the same thing with the national flags in Stellar Horizons. If you run low on markers, you only need to mark the leading edge. You can use all faction markers. That's what these are for. Okay. To mark when everybody has a given tech. I think this is all to say that you're not limited by countermix in any sense. The types of points needed to develop a tech are indicated as a section in the tech chart. Biology, physics, or engineering. I don't know how bright that is. It looks okay. For me, I'm staring right into the light when I turn over here. But I have the camera aimed a little low compared to my eyes. Which is actually, you know, most of the time, if I'm concentrating on the view screen on the camera, I can pan slowly or something like that. But so much of the time, I'm just looking over the camera and ignoring the view screen. And so I move, and maybe a little too quickly. And it gives people a little bit of seasickness. And, well, not much I can do about that. I used to try, but it's too much effort. It's too much effort. The cost of a tech is indicated in brackets. I'm guessing this. They look like parentheses to me, but okay. These look like brackets. Never described. The cost is modified by -3 for every other player who owned it at the start of the turn, but with a minimum cost of 5 after all modifiers. You can buy multiple techs in the same turn, but only if they cost a different type of tech points, e.g. a physics and biology check or one of each type, okay? Players buy techs simultaneously, but I think you can still chain them, right? So if I have this and this, I could buy this and this because they're different types, I think. Players buy text simultaneously. Place your marker above the text you're buying this turn. Other players can also do so if they can pay the cost and have the prerequisite. Campaign. All players who buy a tech that no player owned at the start of the turn earn an IP, which I guess is a single one of these as opposed to a counter. Again. Only through intuition and deduction can I get to that idea. Okay, to buy interstellar logistics, the givers need both improved interstellar settlement and advanced interstellar expeditions. These are kind of a means of checking on things, but this is really hard because it's not here. Is it over here? To buy interstellar logistics. Okay. To buy, we do have the picture there. Interstellar logistics, we need improved interstellar settlements and advanced interstellar expedition. Is that what it said? I think so. This would cost 12 tech points because it's already owned by the Starfarers. Okay, that's this. Once the givers have all 3 techs, marking interstellar logistics would be enough to indicate they own all of them. That's a little annoying. I don't feel like yes, this is the leading edge of that, but I would want to have a marker here as well to say, I don't know. It works easier for my brain. But yes. The Starfarer's marker on interstellar logistics indicates this. Yeah, so this guy already has both of these because of the way it uses it. And there are a limited number of these things, but it looks like there's enough that you could have more than you need most of the time, especially when we add these in. Both the Starfarers and Givers own ultra-long-distance probes in a 2-player game. So this can be marked using an all-faction marker, and that's this. Okay, great. We're almost done. One more thing that we probably don't need. Buy cards. In the campaign, you can buy cards from your hand for the purchase price listed on the card. Card costs 9 physics points. Card is worth a victory point at campaign end. Okay. Each player's hand holds 1 card of each type. 2 genetic or fleet for the transhumanists or praetorians respectively. I'm assuming that's on their special thing. Genetic manipulations cost biology tech points. Fleet improvements cost engineering or physics points. This is a genetic, so that's biology and it's colored correctly. Increase the cost by 5 for each card of the same type and level you already own. Okay, so unlike the tech tree, where you can't even get things until you get other things, for these, each advance you take is becoming more complex. And these are sort of like special powers. Like, look at this. Tech and fleet improvements costs 2 less. Well, what are tech and fleet improvements? Yeah, I'm not sure. I think these are tech improvements, and I think fleet improvements are these cards. Well, I know they're those cards. So this would just be a special ability I would have after I buy this, that I've given myself neural interfaces. Okay. When you buy a card, place it on the table face up in front of you and draw a replacement into your hand at the end of the turn. This counts as your tech purchase for the turn for that type of tech. Now you can get those cards somehow. We talked about this before, right? Some give cards. Here we go. Alien Derelict and Alien Remains give you a card. And I guess you just draw a random card. And then that may end up getting you another draw if you already had it in your hand. Which is kind of weird, but okay. It makes sense because you couldn't get that card again. If you don't buy any techs or cards, you must discard your entire hand and redraw. Shuffle discards back into the deck at the end of turn. Draw cards in initiative order if there aren't enough for all players. You can draw your choice of level allowed by tech. You can buy level 3 genetic manipulations. Okay, so the genetics is going to be in the biology. I guess the fleet improvement, what did they say that was? Is that physics or mechanics? I don't know. I know we saw that somewhere, but it's this, which looks like it's probably blue. My eyes aren't good enough. It's certainly not gray. It's either blue or green, and because that's where I have a problem. For example, with advanced genetic manipulation, you can choose to draw level 1, 2, or 3. That's what we were just looking at here. Advanced genetic manipulation. When can I get level 1s? I don't know. I'd have to look through everything. I can buy level 2 here, so I guess I can buy level 1 at the beginning. You can't have 2 copies of the same card. Discard and redraw duplicates of cards you own or have in your hand. That is the main rules. What are we doing? I don't know. That's going to depend on each scenario. Scenarios are a good way to learn the game. Yeah, certainly the rules aren't. Or get some quick action. Oh, I'd like some quick action. But I don't think the game's going to give it to me. And actually, no, I would not. Anyway. Each player picks a faction, but ignore all information and abilities on that faction sheet. All settlements will cost 5 billion. Starting tech is level, meaning all players have techs in that column or less, e.g. level 1 means all players have all 7 techs from interstellar settlement down to interstellar component design. That would be all the level 1 column, I guess. We don't have those levels expressed anywhere, but we could count across and see what they are. Okay. Only the first 2 scenarios allow terraforming, which is on page 17, remember? So I guess we have to run to terraforming, because I want to do the first scenario first. All right, we'll get to that in a moment. Funny how the easiest scenario, Footfall Among the Stars here, is going to allow terraforming, a rule that's not even present in here. It is hinted at. Guess they could only have 8 pages of standard rules, and they decided, well, if I've got that many pages, I got to slip this complex thing into where it doesn't exist. Yeah, that's fantastic. And the last 2 scenarios allow combat, which is back on page 3, you know. But again, however, escalation and influence is not used. So these are the scenarios that allow special rules. How many scenarios do we have? We have 8 scenarios before we hit the campaign. Am I going to do them all? Probably not. But I want to at least get used to the mechanisms and a little bit before I hit the campaign rules, and then we'll do another video on the campaign rules. But we need some of them for the first two scenarios. To set up scenarios following scenario-specific rules, generally you will also follow these steps. Add the century and decades to the turn track for the starting turn. That'll be 2150. 2150, great. We don't know what that does, but players roll percentiles for initiative. Okay, here we have the initiative rolls. Highest roll gets first, second highest second, etc. I could just throw them in a cup and pull them. That'll work just as well. And little flags. Initiative doesn't change in scenarios unless specified. Okay, perfect. Lay out the map sectors used in the scenario. I've already done that for this first one. Lay out cache in an accessible location. I haven't done that yet. Again, I'm not sure if I want to use the rather shitty, glossy paper cache. I really don't like this stuff. It's back printed with something so you can't see how much cache someone has if they choose to hide it. That may be important, as opposed to chips, which would be, you know, pretty visible. Make a pool of the world tiles. Got one. Make pools of the tech markers by type if tech is used in the scenario. Gonna have those. Those are gonna go in these cups. I'll pull another thing up from downstairs so that I have 3 tech pools ready at all times. Does not tell me to do anything with the IPs. Again, I think they're money, or I think they're just numeric values that are exchangeable. All right, time to play -1 hour. Excellent. I could use an hour back after this. All right, we're going to send... Oh, no, we didn't explain the last rule that we need for this. Terraforming and add rules, or add worlds, not settlement growth and migration. If you have the tech terraforming, you can terraform one world in a system where you have a base, unless it has a no basis anomaly. The givers can terrify an extra time from the start of the game, one time without tech, twice with it, but not the same world twice. Okay, so I think this is over the course of a game. You can terrify one world in. I don't know if you're only allowed one in one system or one in each system. Again, they're not specific enough for me to help understand this. When you terrify a world on its I side, flip it over to its to side. When you terrify a world, yeah, I like terrify better than terraform, I'm sorry. On its to side, draw a new world from the pool. You can choose to replace the old world to side with the newly drawn world one side, if the new one has a higher max population. For you, including modifiers, I'm guessing some players have modifiers to how heavily they can populate, like the dolphins or whatever are better on ocean world. I don't know. But is not more than 10 higher in printed value. Okay. Otherwise, return the drawn world to the pool, or if it has a smaller max population than the original world, you can remove it from the game. If the pool is empty, each player chooses one removed world to add back in. Gas giants, J-class, asteroid belts, D-class, and Earth-like moons, E-class, can't be terraformed beyond their to side, and you can never terraform into these types of worlds. Okay, lots of complexity there. I'm still not sure if you can terraform one world per system or one world per game. If you flip a world from its 1 to its 2, earn 1 IP. If you replace a world with a new one, earn 2. After terraforming, add to the world pool one of each type of world set aside at the start of the game. I'm assuming there's types that are pulled out in the campaign game. It's not in the scenario that I have, so at least that I think. And that's it. And directives and titles are optional rules. Only for the campaign. Okay, so I think we've got enough that we can start playing. I may play a purely solo game because this first one is competitive but has a one-player version. Just to see the mechanisms in play, get used to them, and, you know, move on as needed. All right. I sure don't remember the original being this painful. And it's all the rule book. Like, yeah, this game may have a few little complexities to it that are different, but it seems to be lacking some things that the original had. And overall, though, they just put this huge hurdle in the way in terms of how the rules are organized and presented. It really feels like, I mean, it feels like someone took the kind of notes that I scribbled down to make a game and then just refined and refined them until they were, you know, a workable game and whatever, but didn't bother actually making a good rule book for it, and threw lots of pictures. Like, there's just way too much. What the fuck is he talking about here in them? Anyway, let's send this up, and I don't know. I guess I'll go play my other e-heroine game for a while because I played so much Raid I didn't get a chance to do any of that yet.